Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevating Your Life. Oh, we're going to have another fantastic show today. I am just feeling so honored and blessed for the great guests that I'm able to share with you and know that my amazing audience is out there and just connecting with everybody. I am happy to share with everyone today Ananta, Ripa, Ajmera. She is a 10-time award-winning, 2-time best-selling author of The Way of the Goddess, fantastic book, and The Ayurveda Way. She is also a spiritual teacher, Ayurveda practitioner, yoga instructor, co-founder of the Ancient Way and Soul Wisdom Press and PR, creator of the Spiritual Warrior Program, and advisor of Ayurveda at the Well. She studied Ayurveda, yoga, and Vedanta for 14 years and taught at Stanford School of Medicine, Endeavor, and ABC News. She's regularly interviewed in the media, most recently by Dr. Deepak Chopra. So first off, welcome, Ananta, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm just so thrilled. Well, I would love to begin with, if you want to share a little more of your background, what was that like? Your amazing studies and, how that brought you to where you're at today.
Sure, yeah. I never actually imagined that I would study Ayurveda, yoga, and Vedanta spiritual philosophy as deeply as I did. I actually came to yoga first when I was a college student studying at NYU. I was a very stressed out business student in university in a big city for the first time. So I just started going to yoga classes basically to learn how to cope with the stress of living in New York. And then that led over time to really reconnecting with my roots and going back to India, where I discovered Ayurveda while taking a yoga teacher training in South India. And from there, I really wanted to know how to feel the way I did on the retreat or the teacher training program all the time. And that led me then to study Ayurveda for many years. And through Ayurveda study, I got introduced to Vedanta spiritual philosophy, which is really the spiritual philosophy that underlies both yoga and Ayurveda. And it gives to the world things like the law of karma, the concept of a guru, and a lot of the things that we take for granted these days. It actually comes from Vedanta philosophy. And so what began as a stress relief practice for me turned into really a deep spiritual journey that led to a lot more than solving my digestive issues.
Oh, I love it. Tell us a little bit about what that was like to be in India and to study there and feel that energy. That is somewhere on my bucket list. And I've wondered, man, I can only imagine the energy there. Tell us about that a little bit, please.
Yeah, the energy was really magical. I took my yoga teacher training in Kerala, which is in South India, and it's close to the southernmost tip, actually, of the Indian subcontinent. Where we were studying, there was a lake, and there were lions actually across the lake from where we were. And every morning we would wake up really early before the sun even rose to the sound of lions roaring. And we would listen to that as we meditated early in the morning and watched the sunrise and just lived this incredible lifestyle, which was following the circadian rhythms that Ayurveda really advocates for us to be following closely as we go on our health journey. And now modern science is also validating that. So it was just amazing to be in that environment where yoga has such deep roots and there's such depth to everything that you hear about in terms of yoga and its deeper philosophies and studies, and just the sights, the sounds, the smells, the peace, and the tranquility in that particular place, which was dedicated to yoga study, was really unparalleled.
Oh, I can just imagine how fantastic that was. So you mentioned our rhythms. Okay, for those of us that may not have be familiar with that, what is referring to our rhythms? What is that about?
Yeah, so basically, we all have a rhythm or a way of connecting with the eternal rhythms. And when we say rhythms, what we really mean is the rotation, the movement of the earth around the sun, and how that movement impacts our internal movements in terms of our sleep rest cycle, our waking cycle, our digestive cycle. For females, our menstrual cycle, it's all connected to the earth's connection with the sun. And so the more we can align ourselves with the rhythms of the day and the night and the rhythms of the seasons, which is basically the constant evolution of change that is happening throughout our days, throughout our seasons, and throughout the span of our life, the more we start to harmonize with our own true self and our inner being that's always radiantly healthy within.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. And in your book, you talk about so many fascinating things. I'll start with the four goals of life: purpose, abundance, pleasure, spiritual liberation. Tell us a little bit about those, please.
Sure. Yeah, these are considered the four main goals of human life, according to the ancient Vedic seers or sages who have discovered Ayurveda, yoga, Vedanta, and even the science of meditation. And basically, we're all consciously or unconsciously looking to fulfill these drives as human beings. And the first one is really about survival, right? So when we talk about the pursuit of abundance, we need food as a very basic means of survival. And we need a means to earn for ourselves and our families. We need shelter. And then once these basic survival needs are taken care of, then usually as human beings, we move on to the goal of pleasure, which is what we do when our bellies are full and we can, seek out playful companions, fun new experiences, romantic partnerships, and all of the things that fill our hearts and minds with pleasure and ease and comfort, right? So once you have the money, then you can buy the couch to enjoy your favorite television show on, for example, with your favorite person or pet beside you. And then once these goals are fulfilled, and a lot of people just focus on these two, right? Survival and pleasure, survival and pleasure. But according to the sages, as human beings, we are also wired to pursue the goal of a higher purpose, right? A lot of us feel like we're suffering when we don't feel connected with something bigger than ourselves. And that is really such an important part of feeling happy as a person that, beyond our own survival and our own happiness or pleasure, we want to feel like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves and that we are a contributor to something, that we can leave behind a legacy to those who will follow us in whatever way. So that's a really important quest of human life. And then, all of these goals, whether it be survival, pleasure, purpose, we can get totally lost in any one of them or in all three of them. And that's why it's really important to know that as a human being, we're also wired to seek liberation and to seek the enlightenment of the soul and the being. And when we are able to actually approach the more gross human drives, right? Like the more primal human instinctual drives for survival and pleasure with the understanding of purpose and liberation, then we find that we can do even all the same actions as before, but we're no longer bound by those actions. We're no longer suffering because of our job or because of our partner or because of something that we really wanted, but maybe were able to get or weren't able to get. Either way, it can cause us to suffer when we have too many desires. So what this goal of liberation is telling us is that you can enjoy all the pleasures of life. You can pursue abundance in abundance. But if you ever think that who you are as a person, as a soul, is dependent upon what you acquire or the pleasures that you enjoy, or even the great service and purpose that you fulfill, then you are going to be away from your true essence. And the moment you remember who you really are, then you can suddenly enjoy the pleasure as it comes and, not feel as intensely sad as it goes. And then also pursue abundance without thinking that your identity is lost in that abundance, right? Not without thinking that your worth is the equivalent of your paycheck or whatever money you're able to get, or that your sense of self-confidence as a person comes from how many people you've helped, and it's never enough, right? We can always feel like we're never enough until we are really saturated by the fullness of who we are. And that's really what liberation gives us. And that's why it's important actually to pursue all the goals with that freedom of being, to know that you can do all of this, but it's not who you really are. And when you know who you really are, and you're able to, let things come and go and practice a spirit of greater detachment, it unlocks a lot of power within you to actually experience more of all of these, but with joy and with ease and without all the suffering that we often experience.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So would you say, we can be in the process, we have our goals, we have what we're working for, but we can be happy at the moment and love ourselves just for the fact we're working towards our goals. And taking the time to just enjoy that day and that moment, because all that is outside of us, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's outside of us. And it's really, when we come from a feeling of abundance, that we can even manifest the greatest abundance outside, right? Because everything we look for in our life is actually within us. And we just get lost in our lives because we're in a body and we have the freedom of choice. And we think that it's in the next candy, or it's in the next lover, or it's in the next child, or whatever it may be that we're really after, or the next promotion, or the next, big following on whatever social platform. But really, all of that is within us, right? So if we really know who we are, then we know that we are the source of the abundance. We are the source of the pleasure, and we are the source of the purpose, right? So it's really about us and coming home to ourselves.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we are the source, and that really is something to celebrate, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that's why I love that, with my book, it's actually based on a celebration. So the Way of the Goddess is based on a 9-night goddess celebration that's celebrated by millions of Indians throughout the world. And yet so few people have really been told what the significance of this festival is. And it's really about fighting those inner demons within ourselves that cause us to forget, that pull us away from our true essence, that take us in the wrong directions, searching for love in all the wrong places. And when we can conquer those demons through our dedicated spiritual practices of remembering who it is we really are, then we have a reason in every day and in every moment to actually celebrate the divinity or the goddess that lives within us. And the reason we have a goddess in this festival is not to, separate between male gender or female gender, because really the divine is genderless. But we say it's a goddess festival and we revere the goddess because of the birth-giving attributes being representative of the power we all have to really give birth to the most authentic, liberated, true version of ourselves. So I love that you pointed out that celebration aspect, because these are things that there are many things in life that don't get celebrated, that don't get
Yes,
acknowledged,
yeah,
right? But every time we
yeah,
win a small battle within ourselves, we should celebrate it, because then we're acknowledging it ourselves in a positive way, which makes us feel more likely to continue because it gives that positive reinforcement cycle,
yes, yes. And would you say when we have we bring out that positive cycle and reinforce that, then more is to come. We're putting that out there energetically.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You do say in your book, every day is an opportunity to celebrate the divine feminine in myself and others. And that is so true. So how would you really, so the divine feminine, describe that a little more for us.
Sure. Yeah. So the divine feminine to me is that power within each of us. It's that light within each of us through which we're able to recreate ourselves and to really give birth to the purest version of ourselves that is free from the onslaught of desires, which often are what keep us small, right? And keep us feeling trapped in cycles, whether that be cycles of abuse, cycles of overeating, cycles of undereating, cycles of, self-harm or other harm, basically, right? We're either often hurting ourselves or the other. If we hurt someone else, we hurt ourselves more, right? So it's really about us and us. And yet, in this process of rebirthing ourselves, we have that opportunity for a new beginning. And I feel like that's what the divine feminine really represents, is that true, deepest, ultimate sense of creation, which can also be recreation of our own desires, and really making less desires in quantity and higher quality until we are really just without desires and simply reflecting the pure light of the self. And that's really what it means to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that allowing ourselves to just slow down and enjoy and appreciate can make a huge difference in our life?
It really can. Yeah, because we're always rushing in modern life for the next great thing, for the next big thrill, for the next promotion, the next, and we miss the present moment. So yeah, I feel like slowing down in general and learning patience really unfolds the fullness of life in a really beautiful way.
And you talk about, you give a lot of fun little bits of information in the book, and I'm gonna share a couple.
Sure.
Like put oil on your feet before bedtime to help you sleep, and eat more grounding foods. Tell us about that. And I've been doing that. I've been putting coconut oil on my feet at night. I love it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad to know that you're doing that. That's wonderful. Putting oil on your feet at night is actually a really ancient Ayurvedic prescription for getting better sleep and for being able to ground yourself and also to give pain relief. So it's got a lot of hidden benefits to it, and it's a really, really nice thing to do to even ease out of the connectedness of the day, to really go within, to surrender, and to care for yourself. In Sanskrit, the word for to oil is the same as to love. So when we're talking about oil, it's really like a very tangible self-love practice wherein you really you touch yourself, you connect with your skin, and our feet are a really important organ of action because our whole body rests on our feet, right? So just the act of oiling your feet with warm oil at night before you go to sleep not only helps you sleep better, but it also actually has the same effect of oiling your whole body. So it's just really, really deeply rejuvenating. And it's similar to like shoe leather. If you just let it be, then it'll get dried out after a while and it'll wear out, right? So our skin and our bones are like that, and our muscles, that if we don't oil them, then they're going to dry out, right? But if you oil the shoe leather, then that leather shines and it lasts for much longer, and our bodies are the same way.
I love it. I love it. I have so enjoyed that. That was really a great bit of information to learn.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
A little something. And something else that you say, share a little bit about what are some of the ways we can distinguish between whether we are acting from ego power or our true spiritual power. Share a little bit about that, please.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's always good to check in with ourselves to see whether we're looking for approval from our actions, from our words, from our thoughts, even, or if we are really coming from a place of feeling content and full within ourselves. And, in terms of speech, for example, if our speech is creating division and separation, then usually that's a sign that our ego has come in and is trying to get into conflict with other people about things. Versus if we're coming from our true self or our soul power, then our words will have the power to heal, the power to resolve differences, or even if there are differences, to honor and acknowledge the differences while really bringing people together. Even if there is a need to separate for safety reasons, for example, then at least in the speech there would be some loving sentiment offered to the other, even as one is needing to end that situation, so that's like another example of that. And then even like, do people feel a sense of love in your presence, or do they feel afraid when you walk in the door? So if people are feeling a lot of fear around you, then that could be a sign that your ego is more in the driver's seat versus, when you inspire a feeling of love and safety within people, that's a sign that your true self is leading. So I have a few different inventories in the book where you can really check in with yourself. Like, the book itself is organized into the chakra system. So we have 9 chakras that we're working with in this particular journey with the way of the goddess. And in the 3rd chakra, which is the solar plexus, which is about the power of transformation, there is an inventory on how to know if your ego or your true self is in control. And then again, in the 5th chakra, to know whether your speech is connected to your ego or your true self. And then again in the 9th chakra, which is really about leading with integrity and how you are as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader.
Oh, I love it. I love it. One more thing I'd like to ask about. You talk about discovering your true self.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit, please. Love
Sure.
it.
Sure. Yeah. Discovering your true self. And that's the self that's always quietly there, that's always witnessing without reacting to all of the situations unfolding in our lives. The true self is really the divine self. So the true self is the goddess or the god that lives within each of us. And that is what we can access when we free ourselves consciously of all kinds of desires. It is said by one of the gurus who I've studied with, Swami Parthasarthi, that a human being minus desires equals God, or equals the true self.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Because really those desires are like, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. Instead of just, I have it all. Wow.
The desires are an illusion, right? So
Yes.
in a desire is the belief that you don't have it already, right? Because you want it. So it's different. Like, you can do the same thing. You can do the actions that bring you anything that you would think of as desirable, or what people would say is desirable, without having a desire for it,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
when you have the desire, when you want it, when you crave it, when you think you have to have it, that itself is the illusion that you are not that thing, and that's why you need to have it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because that's an illusion that, I have, and that's outside of you. Oh, isn't it fascinating? Oh, I just love it. This is just all so fascinating and thought-provoking. Oh, I can only imagine, what that was like in India, doing all of that. Wow. Well, we have a few minutes left in the show. Ananta, what last message do you want to give everybody today?
Discover your true self.
Ah, I love it. So what would you say, someone listening right now, okay, I want to do that. What could be a first step to go that direction?
First step to discover your true self would be to set the intention in your own words for a goal that brings you more liberation in your life. That could be studying ancient spiritual teachings. That could be getting involved in service, because the act of service is the most aligned of all the actions we can take to really be with our true self and connect with that. Any intention that leads you to care for your body as a vessel for your true self would also be a really wonderful intention to make to go on that journey. But the journey to discover your true self starts with an intention. And an intention is different than a desire. An intention is really like, in essence, it's one part of ourselves. You could say, yeah, the ego part of ourselves, because we all have an ego and a true self while we're in the human body. And so it's like the ego's way of expressing its return back to its origin or the true self. So even the word yoga actually means to join, which means to join the ego self back with the true self, to go back to your essence, basically. So it starts with a conscious intention to do that. That's the bridge from where we are now to embarking upon a spiritual journey.
Wow. And I love you mentioned the action of giving. I've always believed, when we do an act of kindness and caring and compassion or service to others, I mean, we receive so much more. I mean,
Yes.
the feeling of knowing you help someone or an animal or, the planet, anything, an act of kindness. I've always believed that's just a huge, huge feel back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a way of expressing our true divine nature, right? Because
Yeah,
God or the divine is constantly giving to us in the form of the air that we breathe and the shelter that we take and the ground that we step on and just the abundance of life on earth.
yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much. This has been so fantastic. I've enjoyed you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and your generosity of spirit.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for your wonderful writings. I enjoyed your book so much, and I'm loving the oil on my feet every night.
Oh, I'm so happy.